Well, here joining me now to discuss what the impact on the banks is likely to be and how it's all going down with the banks. I'm joined by Angela Knight, Chief Executive of the British Bankers Association. Always nice to have you with us. Must be pretty relieved. I mean, this is far more benign than many had feared.
Well, I'm not entirely sure that that's correct, actually, because, yes, I saw the analyst report and I thought, but hang on, that doesn't match in with two things. Firstly, what has been said in advance of the general election, and second, the commentary about wanting to ensure that if a banking levy was placed upon us, the UK banks would not then find themselves uncompetitive. So, you know, I think that there were a sort of bit of scare stories run, if I may say, but it wasn't quite the scare area that we were expecting.
Well, it's about 7% of banks combined.
Yeah, it's not small.
Biggest British banks' profit forecast for this year, about 7% of £28 billion. But I mean, in terms of the competitive issue, I mean, we said yesterday from the Chancellor that France is going to join us, Germany's going to, the US considering it as well. So is this going to be a level playing field? Is the rest of Europe going to come on board, or are these banks just going to go off to jurisdictions like Asia, or it's not going to happen?
Well, actually, you know, these are the things that we really need to get into the detail of them. I mean, you mentioned the US, but the US has looked at a bank levy from a different perspective. It's TARP money, which is the money it put together for the purposes of the interventions of a couple of years ago. It's got a shortfall in it. They use it for car industries as well. So it said, OK, banks, you've got to backfill that shortfall. In the UK, that isn't the case, because we've had very much a sort of pay-as-you-go system, the intervention, if you like, and of course the taxpayer owns shares in two of our large banks. Now, the issue that we're looking at is A, what are other countries going to do, and B, for the many international banks we have here, are they going to be taxed here and taxed in other jurisdictions that are levying some sort of additional sums off a bank? Because if they're doing that and they're doing it on the, sort of the same issue, which is wholesale markets, then it's double taxation.
So are we expecting, say, HSBC will get taxed here, get taxed in France and Germany as well?
Well, that's what we've got to try and stop happening.
Have you had any indications from government?
We're not even 24 hours since the budget, so I would say give us a chance. But have I said to the Treasury, look, we've got to be very careful that we don't have multiples of the same tax levied on some banks just for the same issue. We've got to be very careful of that. We do have some things called double taxation treaties. I think you make a very valid point that some countries will do this and some countries won't, and even those countries that do it will do it differently. So we've got a real complex jigsaw which we need to fit together before it actually hits, which is at the beginning of 2011.
And just briefly, G20 coming up, and we already know that Australia, Japan, Canada, they're against a bank tax, so it looks like there isn't going to be a level playing field around the world.
No, there isn't. I mean, there are many countries who say, well, this isn't the way that we're going to address things, and by the way, we haven't got a budget shortfall anyway. I mean, one of the fundamental problems we've got here in the UK is that, you know, the previous government just spent too much money, and when you spend too much money, you end up with too big a debt, and then you've got to do something about it. So a lot of this bank levy is actually about the banks, yes, having to pay more tax, and having to pay more tax because we've got a bigger deficit than some.
It's also payback and popular as well.
Absolutely. The politics of it say you've still got to carry on hitting the banks, but let me just say this, the banks are at the table. They do understand that they've got to play their part in a recovery. We have to get some of these complexity bits right, otherwise we're going to disadvantage some of our banks, and that would be very wrong indeed. The UK is open for business. This is a big international financial centre. That's how it's going to remain, and some of the messages the government does need to give over this next few days, few weeks, few months is just that we want your business here.